One.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Lowry, one of the editors here at the Long Beach Post. Don't know if you've heard about it. It's kind of been going on. There's an election coming up. So, we thought we'd let you know that and let you know what's going on locally, which is a lot of council races that have been, I would say, rather entertaining this year. I'm joined by Kelly Puente, Jason Ruiz, Sebastian Echeverri, part of our terrific news staff here. And we're going to talk about upcoming elections, the debates, the issues, all those kinds of things. Hi, fellas, and hi, Kelly. Thanks for being here. Let's talk about the general feel of this election. Number one, it has been an incredibly long election. When was the original primary to arrive at these candidates? How long ago was that?
It was in the before days in March.
It feels like a million years ago. We had debates in, I think, February, and I can't even believe that's like the same year. It just feels like eons ago.
Why do they do it this way? This seems ridiculous.
Well, we had a bunch of runoffs, so all these races were so close, which is pretty astounding. I don't think we've seen it where like they all basically went to runoff, except for the 4th district, because Daryl just stayed forever.
And just more logistically speaking, the city's voter turnout had been so poor in the years leading up to this that they were forced to align with the state's election schedule. So normally our runoffs would be like in June. So this would have been decided already. People get sworn in like July, but now they got bumped to November. So now the terms won't end for the people leaving until December.
It's been a lot more time for mudslinging.
Okay. That's what I want to talk about. Is it possible, because we've had such a long time between the primary and the final election, is one of the reasons that it seems at least this election has been rather, can we say, contentious?
I think this is one of the most heated. I remember covering some for the Press Telegram, several years ago. And this is by far, I think, the most heated I've seen, at least for, 2nd District and some of the other ones. Just the accusations have been pretty crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've had some interesting stuff. Before we go any farther, Stephen, our producer, I'm going to do it right now. We want to welcome you here. And we would like to invite you to send your questions, your comments. You can ask Jason why he doesn't get dressed up more for these events, whatever you want. You can even ask us our first concert. We were talking about it. Mine was Fleetwood Mac. Kelly's was Violent Femmes. So there you go. One of the things we wanted to talk about is coming up next week, we will have 3 debates that we are hosting along with the Gazette and
Press
Telegram. On Monday, we have District 2 between Robert Fox and Cindy Allen. Kelly, that's a race you've been covering. On Wednesday, District 6, Dee Andrews and Suli Saro. And on Thursday, District 8, Al Austin, Tanua, Thrash, and Tuck. Sebastian, you've been covering that race. Why don't we just start at the beginning, Kelly, with Monday's debate between Robert Fox and Cindy Allen. I think it's fair to say this has maybe been the most high profile and the most heated election. Why?
Yeah, well, I'm expecting Monday's debate to be heated for sure, especially they debated last week. I didn't see it, but they did do a debate for the Young Democrats Club that got pretty heated, and it's just been a contentious, I think we can say shit show because CNN just said shit show regarding the presidential debate. So it's been a shit show here in the 2nd District too, as well. You have businesswoman Cindy Allen, who's a former police officer and close friend of the mayor running. She has a lot of big name endorsements, but then you also have Robert Fox, who's a grassroots organizer, been in the city for decades, and he doesn't have the big name endorsements, but he has a lot of support from residents, and it's been neck and neck. And as it gets closer, they have just been a lot of mudslinging. Cindy has accused Robert Fox of spying on her. Some of his supporters are convinced that Cindy still lives in Fountain Valley and just kind of stays in her Long Beach condo and has been using it as to vote in Long Beach elections. And so they have been staking out her house. Some of these supporters taking pictures outside of her house in Fountain Valley. This one supporter was delivering donuts to her house and just What? Yeah, through Grubhub, but she didn't order, and her son like answered the door and like ate them, and wasn't like, where did these donuts come from?
Never question when someone shows up with donuts.
Yeah,
I had food accidentally delivered to my house, and now I'm questioning whether or not somebody's spying on me.
they might. I mean,
You think you're spy-worthy, Ruiz? Come on, man, get over yourself.
So it's just gotten uglier because one of Fox's supporters has turned the coat and is kind of deflector now, and had supposedly a change of conscience about all this spying he's been doing on Cindy. So he went to Cindy and brought all this info saying they asked me to spy on you and do all this. And then the Fox camp turned around and called this guy crazy and used a lot of unflattering language for this guy who has PTSD basically. And yeah, and then Cindy's been calling Robert Fox a slumlord. And so Fox in response put pictures of the nice apartments he's furnished on Facebook. And it's getting uglier and uglier.
Very nice.
Are there any actual issues besides you're the worst, no, you're worse than me? Are there actual issues, Kelly, that are going on here?
Yeah, sadly, the issues I feel have been buried under all this like drama, especially, the dispute over where Cindy lives. I mean, the city clerk has verified that she's a proper candidate. So, I mean, the residency thing really isn't an issue. Residents care about in the second district, but the police funding is a big issue. Cindy's next police officer. How would she vote on, issues of defunding the police or police reform? I mean, parking in the second district, that's a huge issue. And, the
Broadway corridor.
The Broadway corridor and narrowing that. I mean, that's what Robert Fox ran on, because the residents were saying it caused a shit show with the traffic along Broadway. Right. And you don't even really hear much about the issues anymore because it's just gotten buried in all of the mudslinging and name calling, I feel at this point. So hopefully we can get back to some of that on Monday and talk about, what they would actually vote on.
This is one of those examples. Normally when you see elections, there's normally a Republican, a Democrat, or a conservative and a progressive, something like that. Here in Long Beach is a very Democratic city for the most part. So I think in almost all these races, you have two Democrats running against each other, right? So they're already very similar in kind of a broad sense. They have to kind of distinguish themselves somehow from the other. I guess in some ways, as you point out, Kelly, sometimes that's through kind of personal animus or, character assassination. Is there any ways that these two are trying to distinguish themselves from the other to say, hey, I am this person, and they're not?
Well, yeah, it's funny because they're both Democrats, but they're both kind of a little gray area. Like Cindy Allen used to be a registered Republican for many years. She's law enforcement. Law enforcement generally tends to be more Republican. Robert Fox has been a longtime registered Democrat, but Cindy has been accusing him of being more the Trump of Long Beach because he's he's not big on rent control. He's a landlord, and so he's more for tenant rights and more conservative type stuff in that area. So it's been kind of a lot of the slinging over who's more Republican-esque.
We get a lot of that, don't we? Former Republicans who are Democrats. We'll just leave it at that. Jason, Wednesday, District 6 joins in. We got Dee Andrews and Suli Saro. Tell us about that race.
Well, in the primary, which again was 10 years ago, Suli Saro, who Dee Andrews has been in office for, this could be his fourth term potentially, if he wins. So it's been a long time since he hasn't been a city council person. And Suli, if she were to be able to beat him, she would become the first Cambodian on the city council in the district that has, what is the stats like? We have the most Cambodians in Long Beach, the third most in the world outside of Cambodia or something.
Yeah, one of the largest in the country, next to Lowell, Massachusetts.
Right. And we've never had a Cambodian representing them on city council. So in the primary, she nearly beat him outright because you need 50%, just over 50% to end it there at the primary. And she got 45%. So with the other people dropping out, if she can absorb some of those votes that went to other candidates that were there in the primaries, she might run away with this on election night.
Jason, is this more a case of people were unhappy with Dee Andrews or of Cambodians in this district saying, you know what, it's time for us to be represented. And they might not have a particular problem with DeAndrews. They just feel it's their time now.
Well, I mean, D is an institution in this city. He's, Long Beach Poly. He went to the NFL. He played for the Cowboys, as Steve would.
Jason had to mention that because he's obsessed. But anyways, go ahead.
That was before my time. Anyways, so he's been here a long time. He has lots of ties with the community, and obviously it's been very hard to unseat him. But it looks like it may happen here. Now, while he is an institution, there have been a consistent chorus, maybe a small chorus of people saying that why is he being reelected? Because nothing has changed in the six. There's still high levels of crime. It's one of the more less developed in terms of like getting new stuff. The 6th district, which is Central Long Beach, doesn't have a lot of new projects. Now they're starting to come online now, but he's been there for a long time. And there's just persistent issues that people feel like maybe should have been fixed by now if, he were the council person that deserved to be a 4-term council person, which I should add, getting deep into the weeds, he advocated for when they reformed the charter 2 years ago. His office contacted the city attorney's office to see if one of his previous terms, which was a half term, would count against him.
Okay.
Jason, do you feel like this was kind of a shock for D? Because I think he kind of felt like he would be a shoo-in, because I don't even think he really even raised that much money. He didn't campaign that hard. I think he was maybe taking it for granted that he was going to get in pretty easily.
Yeah.
He was surprised that night for sure. I don't think he even talked to Stephanie on the way out.
Right. The party was very brief that night. And that's another weird thing that's going to be like, think about it. We're covering elections next month. We don't have to go to election parties. There aren't going to be any election parties. It's
wow, that's right. Yeah.
Or unless there will be, and they're all masked up and socially distant.
No.
Or election party drive-throughs or drive-bys. We'll see how that works.
Drive-through, yeah. I don't think we should be going to election parties, mask or no mask. It doesn't sound like a good idea. But I don't know if he was complacent in this run or maybe underestimated Sully's ability to fundraise, but also like mobilize people to support her. But unless there's a historic comeback like the Cowboys beating the Falcons 2 weeks ago, I don't know that he can. I have the stat right here. It was
by the way, Jason's
almost 20%. Almost 20%. Big gap.
Jason, what can he point to? You've mentioned things that maybe people are not happy with. What can D point to say, hey, I did this?
I've been covering city council for a long time, and you kind of there are certain council members like Rex Richardson or Susie Price, or even Janine Pierce, who constantly have items on the agenda that they've brought forward. And D is not one of those council people who's consistently bringing items forward. So I don't know that he's not a guy that can say like, I've done this, this, and this. Last time in the election, there was a flurry of agenda items brought forward by his office right before the election. And I was like, I'm not going to say it's a thing, but it looked like a thing that you do right before the election. Like I passed at least, I got this park built or whatever, but maybe by no fault of his own, maybe people don't want to develop in Central Long Beach right now, but
and he's vice mayor. Essentially if something happened to the mayor, he would be the mayor.
Yeah, he is the vice mayor right now. So
and we'll get to that in just 1 second. Sebastian, you've got Thursday's District 8, the debate between the incumbent Al Austin and the challenger Chinua Thrash Intuck. What can you tell us about that race?
Well, in comparison to the other races, I think Jason and I were talking about it. A good way to look at it, it's almost like a Cold War race. It's not as open as the second district. The issues in between both camps throwing accusations at each other. This one is more reserved. There's not the same high profileness of the other races. but I think it's a question here. Yesterday there was a community-led forum by the Los Cerritos Neighborhood Association where the two were able to discuss some issues, and the conversation of expertise and the conversation of experience kept coming up between the two of them. Al has been on the council. He's seeking his third term, I believe, and Tanua has worked extensively through an LA County-wide economic and development system. So she tries to bring that experience to Long Beach. While Al says that I've been in Long Beach, so I bring that experience already to the city. So it seems to be a battle of who's got more experience, and at the same time, Tanua in her closing remarks last night did mention that she wants to let voters know that she's the fresh choice, the new idea bringer. While Austin leaned more on his experience and says, you depended on me for 2 terms, give me the 3rd term. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
Are there specific issues, or is it more about just character and experience?
There are specific issues that were brought up. I do understand covering the 8th district. It's a very large district that spans across from Bixby Knolls and the BKBIA business improvement area all the way up to North Long Beach. And I think that the issues that some individuals face, some residents face in the upper northern side of the district can be very different to what issues people in the Bixby Knolls area face. A lot of it, the conversation turned into housing and how to address the upcoming issues of developing more housing opportunities in the district while also addressing density, and both candidates had ideas on how that's being tackled. Al mentioned that the vacant lots located in the community, which have been kind of like an eyesore to some residents, has been accounted for and apparently is in the process of either becoming housing or business development. And Tanua recently laid out a new housing plan that she wants to bring forward that would introduce a chief of housing, very similar to a chief of police or chief of fire, where this individual or this group would focus on directly on developing housing opportunities and opening up more living dwelling units in the district. So I know that housing is an issue. The homelessness issue was also brought up. In a recent story I covered, the residents along the railroad tracks were having issues with encampments forming along the railroad tracks. And it's a tough problem because while these residents want to ask for the removal of those encampments to push them along, these are at the end of the day people that the city has tried to offer homelessness services to them, and it's unknown if they do take them or not. And so those 2 issues seems to be something on that the 2 candidates will have to address.
I want to talk to our viewers. You've got 10 minutes. If you have a question or a comment, I know people always complain that you're distant and you can't get to us and the media doesn't care well, right now we're telling anything you want to ask and ask right now. I can never get to these 3. They're completely stuck up. They pretend like they don't know me in the office. This is the only time I get to chat with them. So send questions and comments. I want to start with this, the debates themselves. Now we had them, was it last year? I get old and years fold into other years. We actually had them here. We had them at Fingerprints. They were like fun live shows. They were really great.
Lively.
Yeah, they were great. This year it ain't going to be like that. What's it going to be like this year?
It's going to be like a Zoom debate, kind of like, well, on Monday, we're having the candidates come to our LV Post office, and then they're going to be in separate rooms. Yeah. And
someone will be in this room.
Kind of like this. What?
Someone will be in this room.
Yeah.
In your room.
And then we have a timer. Hopefully maybe we can get one of those little mute things like they're talking about doing to Trump next time. Yep. Because we do have some people that may be a little long-winded on certain things. So we're maybe going to try to do a little mute timer.
Okay. So it'll be like everybody's Zoom call. Yeah. Okay. Sebastian, you brought up something about someone talking about being new blood on the council. And when I look at this now, the Fox Allen race is guaranteed to put a new person on the council. The Andrew Sorrow race, if we go by the primary, there is a strong possibility there could be a switch there, another new person. And Austin and Took, we don't know, right? Is it kind of a toss-up? Is that fair, Sebastian?
I would say so. Obviously, viewers, feel free to let me know that I'm wrong. But it seems like uh, these two individuals going into the runoff election have pretty determined camps on each side.
Yeah.
And so it'd be interesting to see how the race plays out.
So I want to give you a scenario. Election day comes and Joe Biden wins the presidential election. Joe Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris are very close with the Long Beach mayor, Robert Garcia. There has been much speculation that if that happens, Robert Garcia might end up going somewhere, not Long Beach. All of a sudden, you could have 2, maybe 3 new council people and need a new mayor. I'm going to start with you, Kelly.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, what is the city like?
The rumors are flying about, if Biden gets elected, our mayor is going to be out of here by probably the end of the year. Maybe he will be appointed to some sort of position in DC, not sure. But yeah, there's a lot of speculation. He's going to be gone. He's a rising star in the Democratic Party. So there's a lot of people here, some names coming out who want to run for mayor or have expressed interest or said they're open to it. A couple names come to mind. Rex Richardson. He hasn't said specifically I want to run for mayor, but his name has come up in the hat, as well as Susie Price. And it could be interesting because I know a lot of people would want to be mayor or vice mayor. What do you think, Jason?
Well, rumors again. Some rumors I trust more than others. Yeah, those same people are allegedly trying to get whip votes. Is that what it's called? Whipping votes in the Senate to become vice mayor. Because if you're vice mayor and the mayor leaves, and you're a city like Long Beach that has probably not the amount of money that would be required to do a special election to fill a mayoral seat for the rest of Mayor Garcia's term, you would probably just stick with the vice mayor as mayor for the end of that. And then you could run on a platform of, well, I was already mayor for 2 years, you should vote for me again,
Okay, so Jason, hold on there. So let's say we have a scenario that Garcia ends up leaving. And as you said, they might just elevate the vice mayor. But if the vice mayor, who is Dee Andrews, does not win his race, who becomes vice mayor?
So vice mayor is selected every 2 years, right?
Oh, okay.
It's a rotating thing where the council votes among themselves to be vice mayor. So that's what's happening right now, is what I'm being told, is that the people who want to be mayor are trying to get the votes to become vice mayor.
Oh, that's cool.
How many people have you heard want to be vice mayor? All of them?
Well, I mean,
I'll vote for each other.
I don't think everyone on city council wants to be mayor or has the support to be mayor, I should say. So those are the 2 people that Kelly mentioned is what I'm hearing as well. And it'll be interesting. And if Biden doesn't win,
And none of this means anything. Yeah, exactly.
There's going to be a lot of furniture that needs to be returned.
Hey, Jason, you normally cover council meetings. I'm just curious on a kind of human level. Let's say, again, either Fox or Allen's getting in. Let's say we have another 2 or 3 new people. How do you think it's going to just change the chemistry in that room? How are those people going to work together differently, or is it going to be the same?
Well, I mean, the saying is that elections have consequences, and this election really does have the ability to change the ideological makeup of the council. Whereas I think most people would look at, you don't have to look at a person, look at their voting record. Like Dee and Al are more like centrist Democrats versus Sully's running to the left of Dee. You could say Tanu is running to the left of Al, and who knows with the 2nd district. They're both Democrats. I would put them closer to the center, both Robert Fox and Cindy Allen are more centrist Democrats. So one of them wins, they're replacing Jeanine Pierce, who's left of them. But then if you lose 2 centrist Democrats to left-leaning Democrats in the 6th and the 8th, you have a more progressive, on paper anyways, city council than we do right now.
We basically have half of the council that's more union driven and half of the council that's a little bit more business driven. They're all Democrats, but some are more heavily union influenced, I would say.
And you could kind of end up with a situation that we have in our United States Senate where like one side has the votes and doesn't really have to engage with the other side because they can just ram through whatever they want to do because they have 5 votes.
Right.
So it has the potential to change the ideological makeup, but I think it could make for a little bit more acrimony in the future if that situation plays out where they're not really working with each other anymore.
So you can see there's actually a lot at stake. So get out to the polls and vote. But before you do that, on Monday, District 2, Robert Fox, Cindy Allen. Wednesday, District 6, Dee Andrews, Suli Saro. And Thursday, District 8, L. Austin, Tanua, Thresh, and Tuck. They'll all be here on ours and the Press Telegram and the Gazette's websites. And you can check that out, have a look, have a listen, make a decision. And we want to thank you for being here. We understand you didn't ask a question, but I'm sure you were just so enthralled with what we were saying. And maybe, I don't know, maybe Jason's shirt hypnotized you. I don't know.
I'm going to wear a tie. I'm going to wear a tie.
I want to thank our panel for being here. I want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks again. Bye-bye.